Alright, let's talk about the int ascii2int function. And it takes two arguments. It takes the radix and then another argument, which you'll see the point of in a second, called value of prefix. Okay, the way you would test this function is in the terminal you would type something like echo A, B, C, D pipe, that's what we call that character. This is the name of the executable, and then ascii2int of radix 16. Okay, so the point of this function is that we have to convert this number, which is in hexadecimal because we gave a radix of 16. We have to convert that number into an integer. Now notice that that number is not passed as any of the arguments to this function, and that's because we're letting that number go into the standard input of the program, right? So the standard input, think of it as a buffer where this string ABCD is stored. So a buffer is something like a queue, and you can imagine that in memory, and here's A, B, C, D, and then at the end there's a new line character to indicate that that's where the string ends, in a sense, and that's because echo adds that to the adds that new line character to the buffer. So what we'll do is you should try to implement these. You should implement this function recursively, and we're gonna convert this number character by character, starting from the left, using this algorithm that I'm about to show you. Okay, so first of all, we start with this variable, or this argument value prefix, being equal to 0. So when your function is first called from the main program, that argument is equal to 0. Okay, so let's note that in here. Value of prefix right now is 0. Okay, now you'll see why we call that argument value of prefix in a second. So what we're gonna do at each step is we're gonna get the next character from the buffer, and to do that you use the built-in getChar function. It doesn't take any arguments, and what it does is it just returns the next character in the buffer. So the first time you call this function is gonna return A, the next time it's gonna return B, and so on until it eventually returns the new line character. Right, and that's when you know you're done going through the string. Okay, so let's get the next character, which is A, and we're gonna get the numerical value of that digit. Right, that should correspond to 10. And then what we're gonna do is we're going to update value of prefix according to this rule. We're going to multiply the radix, which is 16, times the current value of prefix, which is 0, plus the numerical value of the digit that we just read. And that's gonna give us 10 in this step. And what's gonna happen is that we're gonna repeat this procedure until we get to the end. But you need to think about how to do it recursively as opposed to doing it in a loop. Okay, so for now I'm going to write here that the prefix that we have processed so far in the number is just A. Okay, and the associated value of that prefix is just 10. Right, let's move on to the next step and you'll see why that can become clearer. Okay, so in the next step we do a get char again, and we get the next character, B, and the numerical value of that character is just 11. Now we're going to update value of prefix according to the same rule. 16, which is the radix, times the current value of prefix, which is 10 from the previous step, plus the numerical value of the current digit, which is 11. And that gives us 171. Okay, and because we just processed that digit, we can say that the value of the prefix process, or sorry, the prefix process so far is AB. Those are the characters that we have processed so far, and the associated value of that is 171. Now if you go to a calculator online, or using any calculator, you can enter this number in hexadecimal and ask it to convert it to decimal, and it will give you 171. So AB is 171. So that's what we mean by value prefix. We have the characters that have been processed so far, that's the prefix, and then the value is that converted into an integer. Okay, and we're gonna keep doing the same until we get to the new line character, right? So the next character is gonna be C, and the numerical value is 12, and we update the value of the prefix and it's 16 times the previous value, which is 171, plus the numerical value of the digit, 12. That's going to give us 2748. And we note that the prefix so far is ABC. And notice that we actually don't need to keep track of what's the current value of the prefix. It doesn't matter. Sorry, we don't need to keep the actual prefix. We don't need to keep the characters. We only need to keep track of the value of that prefix. Okay, then next digit. Next digit is D, and the numerical value of that is 13. Next we update the value of the prefix to be 16, the radix, times the previous value, which was 2748, plus the numerical value of the digit, which is 13, and that comes up to 43,981. And we say that the prefix process so far is ABCD, which happens to be the entire number, right? We don't know that that's where it ends yet, because we haven't read the next character, right? But when we read the next character, which is a new line character, we know that we're done, and that the current value of prefix contains the value of our number, because now the prefix is the entire number. So we end up returning this at the end, 43,981, And that's the value of our number. Right, so now you can see how we're doing the same thing with a different value at each step. Right, so and that's perfect to implement with recursion. And this is not a long function. If you as long as you implement it recursively, it's going to be 3 to 4 lines, but you do have to think about it a little bit because it might not come naturally at first. Right, I think that should be all.